Hi, I am Gigi JK, and I am the CEO and founder of Virtina. We are an e-commerce engineering company. Before we start talking about core web vitals, let me give you a little bit of history. Right, a few years back, Google came out with something called a page speed score. Google Page Insights. So you can just Google it. If you just go to site and say page insights Google, you will find a link. You can punch in your URL, a web page. It is by page. You can punch in a URL. It will give you a number, right? It will give you two numbers. One, how fast the page loads on mobile and desktop. So that's how it started. And recently, about a year back, Google started saying that, yep, you have two scores, one on mobile, one on desktop, but mobile is more important than desktop. That's what, until recently, that was the score, right? And there are about 6 different metrics they track, and they sum it up to a score. And the more than 90 is desired. Orange is you are in the kind of like a in the okay zone. If you're red, you have to fix it. And the whole industry, there were two schools of thought. The whole industry got divided into two groups, and one of the groups said Google is right, you had to follow the Google's score. The other group, and they said that Google's metrics are wrong, but at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. Google dominates. Google has the last word to say what your score is, right? So that was until now. That is page speed, which primarily measured the speed at which your site is being served, your page is being served to the user. Now, Google had a rethinking of the whole thing, and Google thought that, you know what, that page speed score is not enough. We have to add the experience is more important than the page speed itself. Now Google is introducing something called Google Page Experience Score, and it's also known as Core Web Vitals. I'm not a marketing expert, okay? I'm a guy who runs a company, and I try to understand this in a way that I can grasp it, right? And like I said, page speed in the Google Page Speed Score, in the older version, there are 6 parameters they tracked, and then accumulated, summed it up into one score. Now it seems like they streamlined that, brought more definition out of the 6. They are focusing on 3 under. The main focus is on 3 under core web vitals. Then they add a couple more, 3 not so important one, right? The 3 are kind of technical. One measures, it's called LCP, large contentful paint. It measures basically it measures how fast your page loads. So you're shooting for 2.5 seconds load time, right? That's the ideal one, or less. The second one is about interactivity. That means once the page is loaded, once you put a request, that means you're typing, the user is typing in something, how fast the page responds to that, whatever you're inputting. The first input delay. So it basically measures the interactivity, as I said. The third one is about it is about how less distracting your site is, and how stable, how it looks, and how the elements on a page moves while loading. I think that's the least important of all the 3. So combine these 3. Google has come up with a score again, page experience score. let's imagine you are the user, you are that business owner, right? You're trying to buy something on your favorite website. If it is slow, you are not going to stick around for the site to load. If you type in something, if you click on a button, if you click on a button, if it takes time for it to respond, right? Think about, you add something to the cart, and there's no, it takes a while for it to add to cart, or you click on a checkout button. It is not. It takes time to check out. You may leave that site immediately. The third one is, if the site is too much distracting, there's stuff coming all over the place, you will leave the site. So all of that leads to either high bounce rate, that means people will leave, people will run south as fast as they can, or not use at all. So this is directly affecting your conversions, meaning, if you're an e-commerce site, if you're expecting people to buy stuff, if you are not serving to their needs in a faster manner, people will leave. So your orders will get affected, and your sign-up rate will go down. All of the above that you don't want to happen, right? So as an e-commerce site owner or any site owner, it's very important for you to get into the greens, meaning more than 90 in that. And you can test this. You can go to web.dev, web.dev. You can go there and plug in your URL and see what your score is. Google wants to make sure that everybody uses Google, right? And that means they get you the relevant, good results in their search out. When you type in something, they want to show good results. Good results mean sites that are meeting or exceeding the user's expectations. So this is why Google is measuring all of this. So if, let's say, you have a site and your site is not at that level Google expects, Google is not going to bring up that. Google is not going to show your site on the search results. Or even if you pay money, if you don't have the scores up, if your landing pages if your landing pages or the pages that you really targeted doing advertisements on, if they don't have this score, Google is going to penalize you. You will be spending more money on the ads and wasting money. It is affects your SEO ranking, and it is going to affect your ad spend also if you're spending money. Both. I can tell you a story of our own story, right? So you can relate, site owners can relate to that. We are, like you said, we are a e-commerce engineering company. We are a software engineering company focusing on e-commerce design, development, strategy, optimization, etc. But this is an interesting story. About in March, I think, somewhere in the beginning of the March, I was talking to a prospect, and he was technical. So I was telling that, our feathers in the cap, or feathers in our cap, right? Some of the projects we did, how good our team is in solving some hardcore problems, etc. And he just asked me a question. He said he brought Virtina.com on, at that time, Google page speed, and he said that your mobile speed is 13 and your desktop speed is like 53 or 52 or something. And he said, if you are really good at what you do, why your site has to low page speed? And I told him that, and I told him the cobbler's son story, right? The cobbler's son the shoemaker's son has the worst shoes in town. And after I told him that story, I said that this could be an opportunity to showcase the world our technical chops. So I asked our couple of my team members to really focus on increasing our page speed. So there is a number of steps that we can do, right? And depending upon how the site is made up, and the strategy might change a little bit. So you can focus on the front end. The Google will tell you exactly what the problem is and what needs to be done to your site, and you follow that. That's one step. Then you can do a bunch of things in the operating system and the web server level. In the operating system and the web server, like Apache, if you're WordPress in Apache or Linux level, you can do a few things. You can do a couple of things in the database level, and then you can do a couple of things in the server side. And in some cases, we have seen this. Just by moving, you may be paying X dollars to this XYZ hosting company. Sometimes, if you just take that, find another good hosting company and pay that same amount of X dollars. Sometimes, many times, that itself will increase the score. Then you work on the other side. So it's how we approach this. We had to take a look at your site and come up with a strategy. What's the lowest hanging fruit to increase the speed, and then it is done in multiple phases, right? Until we get to that until the score is in the greens. Software as a service platforms. This is Shopify, BigCommerce, Evolution. Those are the small, medium-sized business area that we focus on. And in those platforms, you're kind of limited. The developers are kind of limited what needs to be accomplished, and because you don't have much control over the infrastructure or the server side. In the open source, when it is an open source platform such as Magento, WordPress, WooCommerce, or other open source platforms, you have the complete control on every aspect of your site. So you could do much more to increase the speed. So it matters, yes. But you could still, even on the SaaS platforms, you could make a considerable amount of speed of the score, considerable change in the score just by focusing on what Google follows. And it takes a bit of a time. It is not sometimes it takes a little bit of time because there are so many elements that maybe conflict with each other. But you can still achieve. So from that standpoint, the summary is open source, you have much more control, and software as a service platforms such as Shopify, BigCommerce, Evolution, not as much, but still you could achieve. It is page by page. So just because your one page is ranking high doesn't mean that if your other pages are ranking, you have to focus on each page. This is very important, and basically Google is even more aligning with the user's expectations with this, and that's why they're calling it page experience score from page speed score. Now there are other companies who is doing even in-depth studies on it, and so far the studies, it's a bit early to say, but so far sometimes I have seen some articles saying that even though Google is trying to do this, there is not much correlation between the score and the actual user experience. My comment is that we are a bit early to say to talk about to come to a conclusion. A, B, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. If Google says the whole world is yellow when it comes to search, the whole world is yellow. You better make your site yellow too. So from that standpoint, June 22nd is the date, and when Google is trying to roll this out, and the reason I'm saying that it was May 21st or something, they moved one more month. So it is time for every site owner to take a look at what your core Web Vital score is, page experience score is on web.dev, and take a look at it. And if these scores are not in greens, you have to reach out to us or some other company who specializes in page speed optimizations and increase that.